Well, welcome everyone to A Bad Night. 3 true horror stories. Ladies and gentlemen, make yourselves comfortable in bed. Lights out, and let's get started. And now, if I were a stylish YouTuber, there'd be an intro dedicated to this kind of video. But I'm not. First story, very short. Baptiste lives in New York. He lives on the second floor of a building that's just 3 stories high. So he's in the middle. They have a crawl space that connects the 3 flats. He explains that neither he nor his neighbors really know why this room exists and what purpose it serves. But in any case, none of them go there, and none of them use it. Can you feel a problem coming on with this room? One evening, Baptiste came home. He walks into his living room and sees a woman standing on his fire escape, looking out the window. This is New York, and in New York there are fire escapes in case there's a fire. So when you go down these stairs, you pass people's windows. So this woman is standing there, looking out of the window. And it's strange because it was still daylight. And above all, how did she manage to get onto these fire escapes? At the bottom, there's a ladder on a rail that goes down to the ground. She managed to get there, we don't really know how. But we suspect that her intentions are not incredibly benevolent. That's the least we can say. Baptiste threw himself on the floor and started crawling to get to his phone. While watching the woman on the stairs who was trying to find a way to open Baptiste's windows, Baptiste was finally able to get into his room to get his phone, and to call the owner of the flat so they could call the police and investigate. After that, Baptiste went back into his living room to see if she was still there. And no, there was no sign of her. But suddenly he heard a loud noise coming from his ceiling. He explains that his ceiling is made of cork tiles. The stuff you can lift up and shift around. After hearing the noise coming from up there, he looked up to see what was happening, where the noise was coming from, and he saw a slab being lifted up, shifted to one side, and he saw the reflection of light in what looked like 2 eyes in the dark. He then explains that he has no idea how she managed to reach the famous crawl space, but he grabbed a broom and started banging away at all the fucking tiles in his ceiling. And after another long moment, he stopped. He realized she was gone. So he decided to call the police himself and tell them to hurry over and investigate. But unfortunately, nothing came of it. The cops came, they checked the rooms, the living room, the crawl space, the false ceiling, the fire escape, and nothing came of it. But Baptiste heard from the police a few days later because they found her in the fire escape of another flat, very close to his home. They told him that she was, in fact, a drug addict and that she had been extremely violent towards them when they tried to arrest her. Baptiste explains that he's very happy that she's been caught, but who knows if it was really her in his false ceiling or not. So, if it's true, the person who was in her false ceiling is still completely free. Alright, are you ready to move on to the real terrible stories now? I'll give you 2 seconds to think. Let's get on with it. Like many girls, Lucy met a guy on Tinder who she liked. They talked for several weeks without seeing each other in person. And they even discovered that they had a few friends in common, which is pretty reassuring when you meet someone on Tinder, after all. So, logically, I'm not in danger of being killed by this person. Lucy explains that one evening she was feeling a bit down and wanted to see someone. So she called an Uber and decided to go to this guy's house. His name is Tim. Once there, they started chatting outside the house together. And Lucy found that they got on even better in person. She was delighted. Isn't that too perfect a way to start a story, see? Among other things, she told him about her health problems. And that really touched Tim, given that his sister had died and that she had a similar illness to Lucy. That's an important detail. So they went back into the house. When they got inside, Lucy's first observation was that the house looked like some sort of storage unit, but with lots of stuff everywhere, very cluttered. So Tim took her up to his room to Netflix and chill. Ever heard of that? They sat in bed and talked for quite a while. The evening ended as normal, and all of them fell asleep in Tim's bed. And she doesn't have any special comments to make apart from the fact that the decor was a bit feminine and so on. But hey, he does what he wants, right? So what's the problem? Wait until she wakes up. Lucy woke up around 10 a.m. to a horrible smell. She explains that it smelt as if there were 1,000 dead rats under the floorboards of the house. By the time the night was over, Lucy had no more alcohol in her blood. She'd drunk it all. So she had a better sense of observation. She starts to look around and notices that in the wardrobe there were only girls' clothes. Her first thought is that Tim has a girlfriend, and these are his girlfriend's clothes. So he cheated on his girlfriend with her, and that's hot. She then sat down on the bed and looked at the pillow she'd just spent the night on. And she noticed that there was no pillowcase on the pillow. And above all, there was blood, old dried blood. As if someone had coughed blood onto her pillow in the middle of the night. And that's when something clicked. She saw the girl's clothes in the wardrobe and remembers Tim telling her about his sister who had died of an illness. She realized that she was probably in Tim's sister's room. She delicately asks him if they've just slept in his sister's room or not. Tim replies that they have. It's definitely his sister's room, and he hasn't changed or washed anything since she died, and that this is the place where she died in his arms. And then he explains to Lucy that she reminds him so much of his sister, that he's really, really in love with her. This is starting to get very creepy. Lucy explains that she felt very sad for him, that this guy must have been through something terrible, but she couldn't just stand there. She had to leave. It was too much for her. She returned home and decided not to cut the ties. She kept in touch and they talked a bit more, and after a few weeks, for a variety of reasons, she started up again the Find My Friends application. It's an app that allows you to geolocate your friends. She launched the app and noticed something horrible, that her location had been shared with Tim the night she slept over, which clearly means that Tim, while she was asleep, took her phone and activated it on the app. She then called Tim to explain her discovery and to tell him that she didn't want to talk to him anymore, that this kind of behavior is just not possible. And that's when Tim's personality completely changed and started trying to make her feel completely guilty, who started saying things like, you can't believe I did that. It's rubbish. You're such a bitch throwing me away just because my cat died recently. In the end, she later learns that Tim had mental problems and that he was watching women who didn't know him. It's terrifying. So there you have it. That was the story of Lucy and Tim, Prince Charming. What was that smell? Did he kill his cat? Did he kidnap who knows who? It's fucking creepy. We'll never find out, and I hope we never cross his path. So, folks, it's time for the third story, the one where there's a giga mega intrusion. Let me tell you the story of Matilda. She's been married to Valentine for several years. Don't worry, Valentine is a charming and very decent man, and the creepy thing didn't come from him. Matilda fell ill, like a serious illness that leaves her bedridden, and Valentine wanted her to take some time off to recover. Matilda's parents wanted to see their grandson. Valentine went to their house with the baby, so he let Matilda rest peacefully at home. A few hours later, Matilda woke up with chest pains because she had to breastfeed and evacuate. After a while, she started to wake up properly and she realizes that it's very cold in the house. She opened her eyes and heard the front door close. So she's happy because she says to herself, "Great, I've woken up just as Valentine's coming home. That's cool." She called Valentine and got no answer. She turns on the bedroom light. She turns on the kitchen light. She turns on all the lights she can to make sure she's alone. And there's no one in the house. The front door is locked, so everything's fine. This isn't right, though. She knows it wasn't a dream, so she sends Valentine a message saying, "I'm scared. Something weird's happened." Shortly afterwards, Valentine came home and she explained to him in person. They ate and Valentine stayed in the living room to sleep with the baby. Matilde, on the other hand, sleeps in the bedroom. I just wanted to make sure that Matilde had a decent night's sleep so that she can really rest because, as you know, babies cry, and she clearly doesn't need that given how sick she is. Before going to bed, Valentine makes sure the front door is closed, makes sure all the windows are locked, and everyone goes to bed. Matilda wakes up around 2 a.m., again because she has to extract. She's in pain, and she feels the same as she did a few hours before when she woke up and felt unwell, not comfortable at all. And she sees a figure at the edge of her bed. Someone is there at the foot of the bed, and he's the same height and build as Valentine, her husband. So she asks him to fetch her a glass of water while she prepares to evacuate. But Valentine remained motionless and didn't answer her. So she asked him again to fetch her a glass of water. Valentine replied, No, go back to sleep. I like watching you sleep." Except it wasn't Valentine's voice. Matilda ran to her bedside lamp to switch it on, and she sees a complete stranger laughing at her. No, don't try to get rid of the fear through your nose. It won't work. Valentine hears the laughter. It wakes him up. He runs to join Matilda in the bedroom. Unfortunately, the guy managed to escape before Valentine even got to the room. Matilda and Valentine immediately called the police. Being upstairs, the bedroom is quite high, and they couldn't work out how the guy had managed to get there and get away without injuring himself by jumping that high. In short, there was an investigation, and a few years later, nothing came of it. They never found the guy, who's probably still doing it in the neighborhood. Basically, Matilda met a guy who loves sneaking into people's homes and watching women sleep. You can imagine the trauma you go through when you experience that.